Welcome to the 80s. A brief period in human history where your social status was determined almost entirely by the volume of your hair. The economy was booming, the music was getting weirder, and Hollywood had somehow entered this bizarre creative gold rush where studios were just sort of handing money to anyone with enough cocaine and confidence to pitch a killer clown movie. Now, unfortunately, I just barely missed the 80s myself, but as the youngest of 6 kids, I still grew up surrounded by the contagious remnants of 1980s culture scattered throughout my house like radioactive fallout. And you know what? I think the 80s were the golden age of cinema. Yeah, that's right. Fight me, internet. Now, whether or not you agree with that statement, there's really no denying the sheer volume of culturally defining movies that came out during this 10-year stretch. You got A Nightmare on Elm Street, you got the Jason, Gremlins, and approximately 4,000 other variations of small monster puppet causes problem movies. You got The Labyrinth, Ghostbusters, the list just keeps going. You see, the 80s hit this really strange sweet spot where moviegoing was huge. Studios had absurd amounts of money, and at the time, executives were still willing to occasionally throw bags of cash at complete weirdos just to see what happened. Now, obviously, there was still plenty of studio interference, but there was also way more room for directors to make their own bizarre personal movies. You don't believe me? You look me dead in the eyes and tell me a major studio today would let some random guy make Heathers.
Ram, doesn't this cafeteria have a no allowed rule?
Exactly. Now that brings us to John Carpenter and today's topic. They Live. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Carpenter, why? Why are you watching this? Go watch a John Carpenter movie. But in case you didn't know, he was arguably like the worst possible kind of director for a Hollywood studio. And I mean that as a compliment, because even when studios gave him money, he still somehow managed to make movies that felt grimy, cynical, weird, and generally uninterested in behaving themselves. And when the studios rejected his ideas outright, well, he just kept making low-budget camp horror movies anyway. No matter how you spin it, you have to respect the guy. Now that's how we got They Live. Now I want to make something very, very clear. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about this movie. None. Yeah, this is basically just going to be a 25-minute slob fest about how much I love They Live. It might sound like I'm nitpicking at times, but trust me, it comes from a place of affection. Are there things to critique in this movie? Oh, yeah, you bet. But you're not going to hear them from me. This movie is completely unapologetic in everything that it does, and I love every second of it. The writing is erratic, the acting is flat, the pacing is just outright absurd, and write that down because it will be on the test later. But despite all of that, this movie is just such a goddamn charisma factory that it becomes sort of impossible not to love it. Every scene feels handmade. Every sequence is bursting with personality, and in an age of safe movies, coming back to a movie like this is the cultural equivalent of taking a vacation. And folks, we're about to ride this crazy train. And our next stop, Los Angeles, 1988. Population, deeply, deeply unwell. I want to take a quick second to thank everyone who's been watching these videos. It has been really fun for me to pursue this project creatively, and the fact that anybody is even remotely interested in hearing what I have to say has just been really rewarding. I love movies, I love talking about them. However, I couldn't help but notice that the subscriber count is still looking a little malnourished. So, meet Scully. This is my precious baby. I love her more than words could ever describe, and I would gladly kill every single one of you if she asked me to. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Papa's got bills to pay. So, listen carefully. You'd better go down there and hit that subscribe button, or I swear to God, I will not pet her for one entire day. Now, the choice is yours, but can you live with it? Anyway, Our film focuses on a pretty simple and straightforward premise. Rowdy Roddy Piper plays John Nada, a homeless yet somehow unbelievably jacked wandering laborer who accidentally stumbles onto the largest conspiracy in human history. The entire planet is secretly controlled by aliens, with faces that look like horrifying hors d'oeuvre plates. And they're manipulating humanity in order to exploit Earth's resources. That's right, extraterrestrial intelligence does exist, and it's harvesting our planet like cattle through subliminal messaging, mass consumerism, and apparently an aggressive amount of billboard advertising. And the headquarters for this whole operation just so happens to be right here in sunny Los Angeles. Now, to your average Joe walking down the street, you might just see a storefront, a magazine rack, and maybe a billboard advertising some luxury vacation package. But hidden underneath all of it is blunt force psychological conditioning. Obey, consume, marry, and reproduce. Truly a horror film. Now, naturally, you may be wondering, how could humanity possibly see through this impossibly advanced alien illusion in order to rise up against their would-be oppressors? Well, by wearing these magic sunglasses, of course. That's right, you slap these bad boys on and suddenly the entire system reveals itself like some sort of schizophrenic mall cop vision quest. But it's going to take the strength and talent of just one man to bring down this whole bourgeois alien operation. And who better to save humanity than the maniac himself?
God bless you, man. You have a good time, whale away.
This is a parking ticket.
Bet you have fun with it, okay?
Piper plays John Nada, a character who feels like he was written by George Lucas attempting to adapt a Tom Clancy novel after suffering a mild TBI. Nada is somehow an expert in hand-to-hand combat, proficient in evading police, capable of high-level espionage, and apparently completely incapable of expressing any form of normal human emotion. Like, every time I watch this movie, I get whiplash from how unbelievably intelligent and inexplicably stupid this man can become within the span of a single scene. One moment he's uncovering a massive intergalactic conspiracy, and the next he's staring blankly into space like a farm animal trying to process taxes. Nada is that guy you'd have in your post-apocalyptic dream team, but at the same time are probably leaving on red if he invites you out to dinner. He's strong, he's capable, and overall extremely unpleasant to be around in just about any casual situation.
You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly.
To put it into modern terms for the younger viewers, John Nada is basically every rock character melted together into one gigantic wandering action movie homunculus with infinitely less charisma. The laws of probability and physical reality appear to actively bend around this man's existence in order to ensure that he always looks as cool as possible. Okay, so before we continue, I'm just going to put this little timer right here. And yeah, just keep an eye on that for me, all right? But don't worry about what it means yet. It's a surprise. So, our movie opens with Nada arriving in Los Angeles, and he immediately gets himself a construction job by flexing what appears to be an expert-level understanding of labor unions. After befriending Keith David, played by Frank Armitage, Nada quickly becomes convinced that something strange is happening at a nearby church. Basically, an anti-alien rebel signal briefly hijacks a television broadcast, and using what I can only assume is knowledge obtained during several classified Green Beret operations, Nada instantly deduces that it must be coming from this random rundown church. So, naturally, he decides to break in. John Nada, as a character, is less of a human being and more of a wandering force of nature. The movie never really gives him a strong reason to investigate any of this stuff beyond the fact that he apparently possesses an overwhelming biological urge to shove his gigantic nose directly into situations that absolutely do not concern him. We do eventually get something resembling a backstory later on where he talks about his father being abusive or whatever, but that's pretty much it. Much like Jesus, John Nada's personal history between the ages of 18 and 30 are left to a mystery that only Tom Hanks could solve. Upon entering the church, we discover that it's actually a front for some kind of underground resistance movement, complete with walls lined with mysterious cardboard boxes containing something. And just as the movie starts making Nada look like a highly competent espionage operative, we immediately watch him short-circuit during a mildly uncomfortable interaction with a blind priest touching his face with all sorts of enthusiasm. Then comes the police raid. Now, to be fair, the LAPD showing up to dismantle an illegal resistance group secretly hijacking television frequencies does make a certain amount of sense. That part I understand. What I don't understand is why they also brought a SWAT team, riot police, and an industrial demolition crew to bulldoze the nearby homeless encampment directly into the Earth's crust. Turns out hating homeless people is a timeless quality of local law enforcement. Oh, and priests too, apparently. Little did they know they had just inconvenienced the wrong construction worker, because now Nada has his hands on a box of alien sunglasses, and there is absolutely nothing anyone can do to stop him. Now, what follows is genuinely one of my favorite sequences in movie history. John Nada repeatedly taking these sunglasses off and putting them on again for what feels like an uninterrupted geological era. Most movies would probably trust the audience after like the first or second reaction shot. Not this movie. No, this movie desperately needs you to understand that this man is absolutely stun-locked. Befuddled, even. Now, eventually we arrive at the grocery store sequence where Nada proceeds to have one of the greatest public crash-outs ever committed to film, right behind Citizen Kane and The Room. He starts loudly accusing random people of being skull-faced aliens while openly announcing to the world that he apparently possesses magical sunglasses capable of revealing class warfare. This is one of those moments where you genuinely cannot tell whether Nada is a genius or an idiot. Like earlier he had the foresight to secretly hide the box of glasses in a trash can like some hardened intelligence operative, but now he's immediately screaming about alien domination in the middle of a supermarket like a man experiencing carbon monoxide poisoning. You would think the average person in this situation might stay quiet, gather information, formulate a plan, maybe, but not John Nada. No, staying silent is for cowards. If this man existed in real life, he'd be that guy who got caught trying to enter Afghanistan with a katana on a self-assigned mission to kill Osama bin Laden. Which is funny because they were both construction workers before their respective crusades began. Imagine that. So once each of our little green men and women realizes what's happening, Nada has no choice but to make his daring escape by casually walking out of the grocery store like absolutely nothing bad is going to happen. Oops. Looks like the cops are here. But unfortunately for Officer Rubberface and his partner, Nada apparently possesses the combat instincts of a sleeper agent activated by microwave frequencies. He immediately beats the hell out of both officers, steals one of their guns, and then just shoots them in broad daylight. Hey, somebody forgot to tell these extras in the background to act concerned. They're just kind of wandering around back there. Now, naturally, after murdering 2 police officers, the next logical step is walking into a bank with a shotgun and opening fire on everyone inside. Ah, yes, here we are. 42 minutes into the movie, and we've officially arrived at public mass murder shootout. Remember, 10 minutes ago, this man was just picking up construction shifts. Now he's gone full Chuck Norris.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
God, I love how quickly this movie abandons all reason once the central premise has been established. Like, Carpenter spent the first half carefully simmering this conspiracy angle and the mystery unfolding before us. What are these boxes doing in here? Why are these people hiding? Why is everything full of sunglasses? But then suddenly remembered that violence is awesome. So now we're operating at ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
God, this movie is iconic. Apparently Rowdy Roddy improvised this line on set, by the way, which somehow makes perfect sense. Like, it genuinely makes you wonder how grounded this script was before he made it onto set, and John Carpenter, being the lovable little goober that he is, probably savored every second of gradually transforming it into a WWE skit. Anyway, now Nada needs allies, which brings us to Keith David. Keith is essentially the only friend that John Nada has on planet Earth. And if there's one thing we need to understand about this man immediately, it's that he absolutely does not want to be involved in any of this bullshit. He is basically the complete opposite of Nada. Where Nada sees a conspiracy and immediately starts kicking down doors, Keith just wants a paycheck, a stable job, and maybe to survive the week. I mean, seriously, this guy cannot say enough how badly he just wants to mind his own business.
I got a job now, and I plan on keeping it. I'm walking a white line all the time. I don't bother nobody. Nobody bothers me.
Which, of course, makes him the perfect candidate for Nada's new Destroy the Alien Illuminati initiative. Keith is also a way nicer person than he should be. I mean, seriously, he runs into this guy he knew for like 48 hours, who is, by the way, now actively wanted for multiple murders, and instead of immediately turning him in, he's basically just like, "Aw man, come on, dude." He even decides to follow him into a random alleyway and give him a week's pay for some reason, despite the fact that Nada currently looks like he hasn't slept in like 6 weeks. Now, Nada desperately needs Keith to put on the sunglasses and see the truth. But Keith, he just wants to go back to work like a good little cog. So what's Nada supposed to do? It's not like he can force him to wear the sunglasses. Except we both know that that's not true. Every single time I revisit this movie, I underestimate the length of this fight scene. Like, every time. I always think to myself, as we're approaching the scene, like, there's no way it's as long as I remember it, right? And then somehow it's even longer. Not that I'm complaining or anything, this scene is pure cinema. Not because it's realistic or well choreographed, which it is, but because it completely loses all regard of when a scene is supposed to end. Watching this fight scene feels like leaving your house to drive to the gas station, then suddenly realizing you somehow crossed state lines into Nebraska. And yet, it's so fucking awesome. A truly doomed yowie. Maybe it's just the monkey brain buried deep inside of me, but there's really nothing more spiritually satisfying than watching two gigantic men beat each other unconscious for 6 uninterrupted minutes. Apparently, Carpenter was perfectly happy to let the fight scene become absurdly dragged out because he wanted to, quote, showcase Piper's showmanship, end quote. And whether that's true or not, you really have to admire the sheer confidence someone like Carpenter had to let the creative process mutate completely unchecked, even when every logical filmmaking instinct should have told him to stop. Now, eventually, the unbridled tenacity of this walking mullet prevails. Keith finally puts on the sunglasses and instantly becomes spiritually obligated to join John Nada's war against the alien bourgeois forever, leaving his wife and kids a mere afterthought in the audience's mind. Keith and Nada quickly reconnect with the rebel faction from earlier, and now that we've assembled what is essentially a small militia-sized insurgent force, It's finally time to formulate a careful strategic plan to overthrow our alien oppressors. Except, it's not. Because the movie, once again, demonstrates its incredible ability to completely abandon tonal consistency by instantly erupting into a gigantic 1980s action sequence. And now we're talking. I mean, this shit is just beautiful. Extras getting mowed down, things exploding for absolutely no reason. People are hip-firing submachine guns one-handed while bad guys dramatically fall off of elevated surfaces like we're suddenly inside a Sega arcade cabinet. This movie transforms from paranoid conspiracy thriller into full-blown action slop so quickly you forget that there's supposed to be a romance plot. Now, during the chaos, Keith accidentally activates one of his alien wristwatches, opening some kind of underground portal thing, which our heroes immediately jump into without hesitation, of course. I also love that the mysterious interdimensional escape hole has a departure announcement.
Malfunction. This entryway is temporary and will disappear in 10
Like, it's clearly designed for emergencies, but if there's one thing these aliens value, it's proper bureaucratic procedure. You don't achieve intergalactic resource harvesting civilization status without maintaining a professional workplace etiquette. So, after crawling through the world's most suspicious sewer tunnel, our heroes emerge directly into the heart of alien-controlled society, where they casually wander into what appears to be some kind of upper-class alien gala. Oh, and absolutely nobody at this party seems remotely concerned by their presence, by the way. Everyone else is wearing tuxedos and sipping champagne, while these two look like they just escaped a successful raid on the exact rebel faction the aliens are actively discussing in this scene. Nothing to worry about here, folks. Just two gigantic blood-covered men awkwardly speedwalking towards the buffet table. Eventually, they do locate the source of the signal that prevents humanity from seeing the aliens' horrifying spaghetti flesh faces, and without even pretending to formulate a plan, Nada and Keith immediately pull out guns and just start blasting.
I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
Which means, oh yeah, we're back to explosions again, baby. After shooting their way through the television station, our heroes finally reach the roof and the final stage of their mission. Well, hero. You see, just moments ago, our dear Keith unfortunately took a perfectly clean bullet directly through the skull at the very last second. Oh, poor Keith. All this man wanted was just to make an honest living. Instead, he got dragged into like an intergalactic class war by a homeless drifter with cheap pit vipers. Well, finally, after all this chaos, Nada himself gets gunned down by a military helicopter, but not before firing approximately 2 bullets from the smallest handgun ever manufactured directly into a giant satellite dish on top of the building, which somehow causes the entire structure to explode into a massive fiery ball of liberation. That's the 80s for you. He flips the aliens one last middle finger and dies, just before the signal collapses and the entire world suddenly realizes they've been living among horrifying blue skull alien capitalists the whole time. Humanity is finally free, and everyone is safe. Probably. Well, except Keith David's wife and children, who are almost certainly about to starve to death during the inevitable collapse of the global economy and interplanetary government infrastructure. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. Isn't it wonderful? It's a film that somehow manages to move at the slowest and fastest pace imaginable at the same time, while also repeatedly smashing you in the head with its symbolism like a folding chair at a wrestling event. Now, obviously, thematically, I understand that all of this is intentional. The movie is fundamentally about complacency. I mean, it's about how once you're fully integrated into the system, it becomes almost impossible to even recognize that anything is even wrong anymore. John Carpenter actually said that his inspiration, or I guess desire, to make this movie was his way of expressing his dissatisfaction with Reagan-era economics, the whole capitalist renaissance that the world was kind of experiencing during that era. Take Keith David's character, for example. Keith is you. Maybe not you, but definitely somebody you know. He wakes up, he goes to work, he provides for his family, and most importantly, he doesn't ask questions. In the end, it literally takes someone beating the brakes off him in an alleyway and forcibly shoving AR sunglasses onto his face before he's finally willing to acknowledge reality. And that's why this movie is so loud, so exaggerated, and so painfully unsubtle. I mean, when it came out back in 1988, one of the biggest critiques that came from professional movie reviewers was that they felt like the messaging was super ham-fisted. I mean, people look at They Live and assume it's just John Carpenter being campy. And yeah, obviously there's some truth to that. But the entire movie is also a satire about how people will willingly ignore systems actively working against them, so long as they're comfortable enough to survive in them. Which still feels pretty relevant 30-something years later, and probably will 30 years from now too. But the reason They Live has endured for this long isn't because it's some incredibly deep masterclass in political philosophy. It's because the movie is just so incredibly committed to itself. It never pauses to self-examine or apologize for how weird it is. There's never that moment, you know, where they like wink at the audience and go, ha ha ha, can you believe this silly movie? It just fully commits to the bit for 90 straight minutes. I think that's what people didn't really grasp at the time that this movie was being released into theaters. I mean, I genuinely believe this film could have just been about two guys shooting a corrupt mayor with machine guns, and it still would have become a cult classic. I mean, sure, people have spent decades referencing the iconic subliminal imagery from They Live, but outside of its modern use as AI-generated Facebook propaganda aimed at boomers, nobody remembers this movie because of its subtle social commentary. They remember it because it's grimy, it's weird, it's funny, it's cheesy, it's sincere, and ultimately completely unafraid to take risks. Everything in this movie feels handmade. Even the world itself feels dirty in a way modern movies rarely allow themselves to be anymore. The alleyways feel gross, the TV stations look cheap, the alien makeup is sweaty and uncomfortable. Nothing feels polished, and that makes the movie feel more alive. That's a Carpenter classic. Really, I could spend another hour talking about all the weird little isolated moments in this movie, completely disconnected from the actual alien revolution plot. Actually, I'll do that now. Remember when Nada expertly evades police by kidnapping that random woman only for her to like immediately beat the shit out of him the second he looks away? She straight up boots this man out of a second-story window and he tumbles down a hill like a sack of laundry before standing up like, "Oh man, that's smart." Then there's the garbage truck scene. Nada's trying to recover the sunglasses from the back of the truck because it picked it up from the garbage can he hid it in, and for some reason the driver suddenly just starts dumping the load entirely into the alley, and Nada reacts like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to him. Why? Shouldn't this be best case scenario? The glasses are literally easy to access now, and you can get out of the back of the truck. Instead, this man starts climbing deeper into the garbage truck like he's trying to return to his natural habitat. Then there's the scene where Nada and Keith are trying to put the contact lenses in. Why did Carpenter direct them like this? Has nobody on set ever seen anyone put in a contact lens? They're moving like two blackout drunk dads trying to assemble IKEA furniture. There's also that moment where Nada reunites with the woman who threw him out of the window earlier, and then the movie suddenly starts playing this like sweet music pretending they're about to have some kind of genuinely emotional, heartfelt connection before immediately interrupting it with an explosion. Classic. Then we get to the teleportation room, which is apparently just a sewer room with outer space green screened onto the wall. How does this work? Why is it underground? Shouldn't teleportation technology maybe be located somewhere other than a damp maintenance tunnel beneath Los Angeles? And why does the movie even introduce this concept like it's totally normal and then immediately move on? Who cares? Then you got the scene where Keith offers Nada a place to stay and Nada just silently stares at him like a haunted department store mannequin instead of responding with literally anything, and then afterwards just proceeds to stalk him like a disturbed schizophrenic. And of course, the one-liners.
You look like your head fell on the cheese dip back in 1957.
Where'd you get those glasses?
Tooth fairy. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can. Put them back on? Formaldehyde face. That ain't love grand. That's like pouring perfume on a pig. Well, they ain't from Cleveland.
Oh, God, I love this movie. They really just don't make them like this anymore.